Talking today about restoring cast iron. Stay tuned. Hey guys, Cappy with the Black Hills Homestead here today on a beautiful spring day talking about restoring cast iron. What do you do with this? This is a pretty extreme example. I literally found this in a barn, halfway submerged in a bucket of water. Looks like it'd been submerged the entire time in a bucket of water. So we're going to talk about a couple different processes today. One is, what do you do with brand new cast iron when you get it from the store? What do you do with something that's in this poor of shape? And what do you do with something that's maybe in decent shape but just needs some love, needs some cleanup on the bottom, around the edges and things like that. Talking about what to look for when you're about ready to season your pan. We're going to do a whole separate video on that, and yeah, what to look for. So one of the main things about cast iron is rust. It's iron. It has no coating on it. It has nothing. It is iron. It will rust. This is one of my all-time favorite griddles, and it's got some rust. That's not a lot. That can come off pretty easy. A lot of it's really superficial. We're going to show you guys today how to clean that up, how to efficiently clean that up, and also what to do when you just have a little bit of spot rust, like on this big number 20 that we have here. So let's just jump in. One of the big things is there's a lot of ways to clean these things up. There's mechanical ways to clean it up. This is a wire wheel on a side grinder or an angle grinder. I've used them in the past. There's some die-hard cast iron people that say never ever use any sort of mechanical means. I've had really bad pans sandblasted all the way down to raw metal again, and it's almost a grayish finish that looks kind of like that. You can see this discoloring on the bottom. This pan was refurbished, but never seasoned correctly. So we're going to talk about that in the future video. So if you don't have access to an angle grinder, if you're not comfortable using an angle grinder, don't use it. All you're going to do is hurt yourself or hurt the pan. And definitely don't ever use any sort of grinding hard wheel or a flat sanding wheel. You will actually take metal out and gouge metal, and that's not what we're trying to do here. So we'll just get this out of the way. All right guys, so what we're going to start with basically on these rusted ones, so we'll come in here and look at these first. All we're going to do is we're going to use a vinegar and water solution. No more than 50-50 vinegar and water. Vinegar is an acid. It is going to eat the rust. It's going to etch it. You don't want to leave that vinegar solution on for more than 20 to 30 minutes at a time, because it will etch the steel itself. So all you're going to do is take your handy little squirt bottle, just all-purpose vinegar, store-bought vinegar, apple cider vinegar if you make your own, that kind of thing. And we're just going to get this pan coated down. We can do the whole pan because we're going to clean everything up. I got a little bit of rust going on over here. And we're going to do the top, bottom, left, and right. We're doing this outside today, outside our little bread oven here. We're just outside our outdoor kitchen on the homestead. If you do this at home in the kitchen, put something down. This is a messy process. Put some cardboard down, maybe even an old piece of plastic. A towel works fine, but it will get pretty gross here in a little bit. So yeah, so we're just going to coat this guy, top and bottom, and then we'll come right back. It's okay if you let a little of the vinegar solution sit in the bottom of the pan. Like I said, you're going to want to track your time and what that looks like, so you don't damage the pan in the form of pitting. So you definitely don't want to do that. So once you have the vinegar solution on there, there's a couple ways to do this. Using a stiff bristled, what I call a deck brush. You can use a little knuckle brush if you want. Also just a Scotch-Brite pad. I would advocate staying away from an SOS pad that's impregnated with the soap or the detergent. Cast iron is porous. Don't ever want to use soap on it because that soap will eventually embed into those pores and it's really hard to get out. So you don't want anything on there that's going to be hard to get off later in the future. So stay away from it if you can. So yeah, so we're just going to start with this knuckle brush here, this deck brush. And all we're gonna do is just start working on this rust. It's gonna take a little bit of elbow grease, take a little bit of time, but that's all right. For a pan that's gonna last you your entire life, you can spend a little bit of time giving it some love. So, also too inside, think about these little bristles flicking rust water, rust vinegar everywhere, so just a consideration. So when you get to a point where a lot of our rust is gone, things like that, what you're gonna see is some of this discoloration or staining in the iron. Sandblasting gets that all gone if you want it to be gone. It does not affect the piece whatsoever. It doesn't affect how it cooks, doesn't affect anything like that. So for this piece, because it has been seasoned in the past and neglected, so some of this is leftover seasoning. Seasoning is not flavor. Seasoning is polymerized oil. And it's a protective coating on the cast iron that makes the cast iron a non-stick cooking pan. So we're gonna clean this up just a hair bit more, but I'm liking how it's looking. And then once we season this, you're gonna start getting into this realm of all black, smooth surface. So we're gonna rinse that off one more time and get her dried off. So something important about when you're in the refinishing stages of cast iron, if you have multiple pieces, even if you're just doing one piece, one of the biggest things that's gonna hurt you is flash rust. So we're gonna get this piece dried off really, really well. So we got no rust coming off on this towel. It's a lint-free towel. I like to use the kind of flour sack towel. The old t-shirts work great. Try not to use the good towels in the kitchen drawer. That tends to upset members of your family. But yeah, so we're gonna get this guy dried off. It's nice that we're out in the sun today. If you have an oven or you're in the house doing this, it'd be nice to pop the oven on to 250, 300 degrees, and then you can dry this thing out really, really well. Once it's dry, we're gonna put a really thin coat of oil on it. We have olive oil here today, because that's what I had in the kitchen. And yeah, it doesn't matter. Grapeseed oil is popular. It has a high flash point, just over 400 degrees. Olive oil is a little lower. Avocado oil is also popular. Lard, bacon grease, it all works. Your ancestors did it with bacon grease for hundreds of years. So yeah, so we're just gonna get this guy dry and get some oil. All right. Once you have it dried off and you have it where you want it as far as getting the things off, you're gonna wanna put a light coat of oil, You don't want it to be slick, you don't want anything to come off on your hands, and that's gonna be similar to the process that you're gonna go through when you do the seasoning. So, again, a lint-free rag. If you wanna use paper towels, you can. Some people don't like them because it leaves a little bit of lint behind. You won't die if you eat it. So what we're gonna do is every square inch of this pan, we're gonna cover with oil. And what that's gonna do again is gonna keep that flash rust from forming on your piece before you can get it into the seasoning stage of what you're doing. And again, I can tell after we clean this, I can tell where the burners are on a conventional stove, and the bottom has not been seasoned appropriately. So that's something we're gonna make sure to put a really, really good coat of seasoning on this pan. We're probably gonna do 4 or 5 rounds of seasoning, and we'll explain that when we get to it. Now, as we discussed before, cast iron is porous. So cast iron will actually soak up the oil as you go in. So we wanna come back and just make sure everything got touched, everything got hit. I can see there's a little bit of kind of what's left of the seasoning on here. It's not gonna hurt it. Once we get this whole thing seasoned, it's gonna even out in color, it's gonna even out in smoothness, and some of these little high spots will go away. So you can use cast iron with metal utensils. Most of us have been trained not to use metal utensils on conventional pans because it scratches the surface. You can use it on here and it will scratch it, but you're scratching the seasoning. So if you're seasoning this correctly every single time, it's not an issue. And that is something to know about the seasoning of the pan, is you're gonna season it every single time you use it. Every single time. All right, awesome. Well, that's what this little lady looks like. We're gonna get the other ones worked on here, and then we'll be ready to season an entire batch. So. Hi, Lester. You want to be on camera? Are you sure? You've been on TV before. This is nothing. This is just Alex with a camera, just hanging out. We're just chatting about cast iron.